join me in welcoming Lenny Robbins.
Before you start the timer, Greg, everyone, I handed out this evaluation guide.
Oh.
This is the evaluation that we're going to use to evaluate me in this presentation. There are certain guidelines that have to be used for this presentation. I was asked to give a speech from the Successful Club Series. The Successful Club Series is a set of presentations that Toastmasters gives so you can have better clubs. Evaluation is one of the things that makes Toastmasters unique. But sometimes we don't do a very good job of explaining what evaluation is and how to do it to our Toastmasters members. So what I'm going to do today is go over a few guidelines for doing evaluations. As Bill said, I have been in Toastmasters. My 2-year Toastmasters anniversary was on December 1st, so I thought of myself, I'm a Toastmasters toddler now. Eventually, I'll become a Toastmasters adult. There are various levels that you can attain in Toastmasters. Right now, I have a competent communicator and a competent leader certification. When I give 2 of these speeches from the Successful Club Series, I will then get my next certification, and that is what I'm going to give my next speech to the group on, is the Toastmasters educational program, so I can explain to everyone what these all mean, because I'm sure you've seen symbols behind people's names, and we're wondering what they were. Evaluations benefit speakers of Toastmasters in a number of ways. You get immediate feedback for when you give a speech. Sometimes you'll talk to someone or you'll do something and you have absolutely no idea whether you did a good job, whether you did a bad job, what areas you can improve in, what areas that you're really good in. And when we give evaluations, we like to make sure that our members get that feedback. So there's a constant striving for improvement. Which brings me to, when you're doing evaluations, we like to give you areas where you can improve. We talk about your strong points, we talk about areas that need a little bit of work. And one of the most important things that we do as Toastmasters is help fellow Toastmasters build self-esteem. When I first came to Toastmasters, I was definitely afraid of giving speeches that I had to write. Giving this speech, actually, I was a little bit nervous when I was doing it because my weakness is prepared speeches. What makes it even worse is it's a prepared speech that someone prepared for me that I have to give. So I was a little bit nervous when I did this. So it's been many months since I've given my last speech because I was nervous because I didn't want to give a canned speech that it's like, is that good enough or is it not going to be good enough? Yeah, you see Lenny and you think, oh, Lenny's really confident, but I'm not always. Sometimes I'm a little bit shy. But when we give evaluations in Toastmasters, we use what's called the tell and sell approach. What the tell and sell approach is that the evaluator talks and the speaker listens. The benefits of that is that there's no bantering back and forth. Sometimes some people get defensive in the things, and you can actually see it in their face while you're giving the evaluations. But since we have it set as our norm to use the tell and sell approach, the people afterwards will usually come and you'll see them talking and you'll say, well, no, I completely and totally disagree with you about that. Well, but I thought that this. Well, sometimes there will be disagreements, and the tell and sell approach stops the problems from occurring right while we're in the meeting. There are 5 areas that I'm going to talk about, for the five major areas for evaluations. these are things that should be done with every evaluation, and sometimes we don't do them in this club. And since I'm giving this presentation now and I'm the Vice President of Education, I'm gonna start trying to make sure that these things happen. One of the most important ones, the most important things is there's things that you need to do before the presentation. And that is talk to the person who's gonna be giving a speech. What we do a lot in this club, and I'm not really complaining that much, and I'm not bragging, but we'll walk into a meeting and someone will say, hey, can you evaluate my speech? In order to have the best evaluations, you need to go over what the manual objectives are. If you know what the objectives are, you can help the speaker speak better because you know what they're gonna work on. Also in the books, there are guidelines for what you're actually going to be evaluating. Like the very first speech, the only evaluation is did they get up and speak without passing out from fear, is the most important thing in the first speech. To where when we get to this speech, there were many things that were important. Like one of the most important ones, and I'm sort of weak at it myself, is that introductions. It tells you, here's the introduction and here's how you must give the introduction. So when the speech comes, the members of the club have a much better idea of what's going on with the introductions. And then any concerns from people. So for some of our newer members, they're really nervous before they get up and give their presentation. And if that is a concern, as an evaluator, you can help them out and say, oh, it's really good, and you don't have to worry about that. I understand you're nervous. Just go up and speak, and we're not gonna bite, we're gonna support you in everything you do. There are things that are supposed to go on during the speech. One of my pet peeves is that while people are evaluating, they may have a cell phone sitting on the table and it'll vibrate, or even if they have it on silent, the screen will change and you can see their eyes go from the speaker to the cell phone on the table and then back. We want to make sure that we show that we're interested, because really think about it. If you're giving a presentation or a speech and you're talking to someone and they look down at the phone, what does everybody think? Of course you think, oh, they're not paying attention to me. Am I boring? Did I do something wrong? And no, it's not the speaker's fault. It's the evaluator being inconsiderate. And the easiest thing to do is make sure that you take notes while you're speaking. If you don't, because afterwards you only have 1 minute, actually, not 2 minutes, 1 minute to evaluate the speech. So if you haven't taken notes during the speech, then you'll run out of time at the end. I realize that sometimes it's difficult to take notes and be interested, but that's something that we can work and look interested. That's something that we can work on. I see all of you are furiously writing, and I really appreciate that. So I know you're really paying attention to me. The third thing that we attempt to do is personalize your language. Don't just use canned responses. And then put yourself in the speaker's position. When someone is telling you what's going on, you don't necessarily want them to use words that are not really words that you would use in a normal conversation. So we want to stay away from words like, you didn't. Don't tell people, oh, you didn't do this, or you should have done it this way, or you failed in this thing. We don't want to use words like that because those words can bring people down and make them not want to speak again. What we want to do is stimulate improvement. And in order to stimulate improvement, let's use words like, I believe you could have done it this way. My reaction to the story you told, my reaction to having a trough in the living room to deliver a child was wonderment. It's like, wow, that really happens? And also, don't be afraid to give suggestions to the users. The next thing that's really important is you are evaluating what the person is saying, not the person themselves. Because our club is really unique because we all love each other and don't have any conflicts. But there are clubs where people really don't like each other. And yeah, I'll explain it to you. I see that expression here. But sometimes when they're giving evaluations, people will look and say, oh, I can't believe she just said that about me. I was trying to do this. So you're evaluating the speech and not the person. Make sure that you pay attention to the speaker's goals for self-improvement. And since you sat and talked to the speaker before they gave a speech, you're going to know exactly what those goals are. And evaluate what the speaker does and not what the speaker is. And I just got off track. But anyway, evaluate what the speaker does, not who the speaker is. And I just talked about that previously. And the fifth point, and the most important, is to promote self-esteem. We want to make sure that the praise that we give to the speakers is honest and sincere. We don't just want to say, oh yeah, that's great, that's wonderful, come on, let's do that. We want to have positive reinforcement when people occur. We've had users, Bill's a very good example. When Bill first came to Toastmasters, he wasn't even sure that he wanted to get up and speak in front of people. And Bill has made tremendous strides. He spoke in front of 100 people with only a few minutes of preparation a couple of weeks ago. And that was a tremendous improvement, Bill, from when you first. And make sure that you always end your evaluations positively. Evaluations need structure. And there are two effective options for when we evaluate. We call the first one the sandwich technique. And what we do is we point out a thing that's good, an area for improvement, and another thing that's good. And you'll see most of our evaluations will follow that. Another one, which we tend to not use, but which is still optional, which is still available, is the commend, recommend, summarize. So what you'll do is you'll point out a good point, you'll point out an area for improvement, and then you'll give a summary of what the speech was. And why do we evaluate? It provides support for the speaker to know that they're going good. We encourage them along their journey to become better Toastmasters. We show the users what was great, good, areas for improvement. We try not to always say everything is wonderful, because no speech is ever perfect. We try to move members forward. The educational program in Toastmasters tries to move the users along so they get better and better and better and better as speakers. And evaluations and the valuable feedback that it provides is one of the things that makes Toastmasters unique. You cannot get this experience in any other club that I've been a member of. And with that, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lenny. And so you'll have 1 minute now to finish your evaluations. Okay, time's up. We will move on to speech number 2, which will be given by Pam Howard. Speech title is Conservation, Stewardship, and Kids. Pam Howard has been working with children on getting outdoors, understanding nature, conservation, and stewardship of natural resources since high school, for the curious, that is 35 years. She is a graduate of U of M in laboratory and biological science. She has been a volunteer outdoor educator for the Safari Club Teachers Workshops, MUCC, Rough Grouse Society, Girl Scouts of America, Boy Scouts of America, the DNR Becoming an Outdoors Women Program, and the Women in the Outdoors Wild Turkey Federation. She is a specialist in plant identification and Native American use of plants. For the last 6 years, Pam has been arranging and participating in stewardship projects for the Boy Scouts, including native plant preservation, invasive species eradication, soil erosion, recycling, and trail work projects. Please help me welcome Pam Howard.